that, you find a buried treasure. And it happened. It was unbelievable.
Many fortunate people have found priceless objects by accident. A few have millions of dollars worth. On a good day, this textile would be valued at $350,000.
This textile would be worth $350,000. On a good day, it's about $500,000.
Oh my God.
It is located in unexpected areas and costs around $500,000. Usually, explorers and archaeologists alike look for these kinds of artifacts non-stop. When you are young, you have a dream of discovering hidden treasure, and it comes true. It was astounding. Come along as we examine 10 fortunes and treasures discovered in deserted locations. Number 10. A blanket of treasure. Lauren Kritzer, a man from California, stumbled upon a family relic that was far more valuable than he had anticipated. When Lauren was in a vehicle accident in 2007, he tragically lost his leg. He was barely making $200 a month on disability checks. However, good fortune would favor him when he came across a $500,000 blanket at an antiques expo. It dawned on him then that he had a blanket just like that in his closet. It was a Navajo blanket that belonged to his grandma. It has been used to capture newborn kittens upon delivery since the 18th century. He then went to the closet, retrieved the blanket, and told his mother about his scheme to get some quick cash. Who would have imagined that a blanket with such minimal value could command such a high price? Not even $10 would be paid for such blanket. Although his mother had believed as much, he surprised everyone by winning an astounding $1.5 million at an auction in California. After half a year, 500,000 best wishes, sir. Yes. He claimed the auction had given him a fresh start in life. He's now bought a car and 2 houses using a portion of the blanket money, which he put in stocks and bonds. Naturally, the funds should support him for a considerable amount of time. Number 9. Rare coins, gold, and diamond rings. After purchasing a home's contents, Alex Archbold, the proprietor of an antique shop in Canada, was startled to find a plethora of treasure therein. Alex had purchased the belongings of a deceased piano instructor for a mere $10,000. Originally, they'd invited Alex to come look at the 1964 Cadillac that was sitting in her garage in a static state. Alex never did the normal thing, which would have been to check the house before making the payment. Thus, he was clueless about what awaited him on the premises. He considered the house to be an entertaining journey for his YouTube channel. However, he was startled to see that the house was filled with numerous treasures that were far more valuable than he had anticipated when he viewed them inside. He would soon find out that the mansion included more silver dollars and money from the 1920s, a 100-ounce silver bar, vintage gold and diamond jewelry, and expensive clothes from Chanel and Burberry. Later, he would say that it was the best investment he had ever made. He had listed all of the house's treasures and calculated their estimated value to be well over $400,000. He frequently purchases the belongings of abandoned houses in order to post his findings on YouTube. He was informed before buying this particular house that the piano teacher made a poor living, so he wasn't expecting much and was instead captivated by the large piano that was located within the house. Was he aware that she was wealthy in real life, albeit one who dressed modestly? Number 8. Ancient Mayan artifacts. Nick DeMola, a rubbish removal expert in New York, discovered an ancient trash barrel during the process of cleaning out a Soho apartment and studio. The barrel was part of a non-profit foundation established by friends of the late abstract artist Clinton Hill. DeMola was paid $4,500 to tidy the home and discovered an ancient barrel on the verge of being discarded. The barrel contained ancient clay figurines and artifacts estimated to be nearly 2 millennia old. DeMola discovered the items and took them to a trader and appraiser of ancient art, who verified their authenticity. The total estimated value of the goods was $16,500, including a $1,000 stone axe that may have been offered as a sacrifice to DeMola. Initially, DeMola intended to put the pieces back in the barrel, but upon reconsideration, He had intended to either sell them or preserve them in a museum for others to view and enjoy. Number 7. 1956 Ford Thunderbird. Due to their high cost, classic or vintage cars are hard to find. An unidentified family in Michigan revealed a hidden automobile collection that had been undiscovered for around 30 years. The discovery of a fleet of 28 Thunderbirds, one of which is valued at nearly $27,000, would surprise that family. In 2016, auctioneers would then put the vehicles up for auction. The family and those auctioneers had a meeting at a restaurant off-site. After that, the family would take the auctioneers to the location where the cars were kept. A rare 1932 Ford Model B and a 1987 Chevy Silverado pickup, which together would fetch over $37,000, were among the many historic vehicles on display. Now, because many of the automobiles were so uncommon, .com co-founder Scott Medema said that seeing the cars looked like something from a reality television program like American Pickers or Hoarders. He would eventually transport all of those cars to a Wayland showroom where a public auction would take place. The 1956 Ford Thunderbird in the collection, which was going to be towed to the yard after an accident, sold for more than $5,000. It might have belonged to a famous person in Hollywood. However, the vehicle is currently in good condition and back on the road. Do you like classic cars? Of them, which is your favorite? Tell me in the comments section below. Number 6. Artworks worth millions of dollars. Francis Hines, an abstract expressionist painter from Connecticut, left behind a sizable collection of artwork in a barn that had once been his workshop. He passed away in 2016. A year later, a technician from Connecticut named Jared Whipple discovered the artwork collection. He had thought the artworks to be nothing more than trash, so he carried them all home with the intention of using them as Halloween decorations. Did he know those pieces of art held millions of dollars in value and comprised Francis Hines's life work? While sorting through the collection, Whipple came across a 1961 canvas that had Francis Matson Hines written all over it. After doing a thorough biography of the artist, he would get in touch with the artist's family, who had granted him permission to preserve the piece. Synthetic cloth spanning 8,000 yards had been used to wrap the collection. After his retirement, Whipple was introduced to other artists, such as art historian Peter Hastings Falk, by Hines's former art dealer, retired San Francisco art dealer Muldoon Elgar. Hines was reportedly using traditional elements popularized by Christo and Jean Claude in their wrappings. Even though no one knows how many pieces of art Whipple has preserved, he says he would retain a handful. A net indicates that each of those paintings would fetch between $12,000 and $20,000. Even if the drawings might fetch $4,500 alone, the collection as a whole was valued at millions of dollars. Whipple's goal was to write Hines's name into history. Number 5. Comics in the basement. Michael Rower discovered a collection of 345 comic books in the basement while clearing out his late great-aunt's Virginia home. His late Uncle Billy possessed the collection, and before passing away in 1994 at the age of 66, he made no mention of having one. That collection, which included rare comic books and other materials, including 44 issues of the Overstreet comic book Price Guides, was carefully packed in the basement closet. List of the best 100 comics from the late 1930s to the late 1940s, which is considered the comics' golden age. Captain America and Detective Comics number 27 were the others. Among other things, number 2, he would quickly discover that his great-uncle had succeeded in purchasing an astounding assortment of what proved to be some of the most precious comic books ever released after doing some study on the collection's worth. Wright's collection's main focus is on the years 1938-1941. And to learn that Wright had a sharp eye even as a little boy is amazing. The rare magazines were sold at auction in 2012 for an astounding $3.5 million in New York, believe it or not. Detective Comics number 27, for instance, which is the first issue to feature Batman, sold for $523,000 when combined with the buyer's premium Action Comics. First place went to a 1930 edition with Superman's first appearance, which sold for $299,000. Although the 1940 Batman #1 sold for $275,000, these were really amazing discoveries that were all stored in a basement closet. Number 4. Schroeder treasure. The Schroeder treasure in 1988, a construction worker in the Polish town of Schroeder, SLAA, found something metallic while refurbishing an abandoned telephone exchange. He thought at first that he had struck some milk bottle caps, but little did he know that what he was about to find would be a treasure trove worth a century. When he turned the metal stuff over with his shovel, he discovered a treasure trove of gold, silver, and precious diamond coins. The estimated worth of the 14th century treasure, which contained almost 4,000 gold pieces minted in Prague and other sites, was $6.9 million. Everyone was trying to get as many loose coins as they could, like a golden crown, as the people scrambled for them. Even nevertheless, police moved swiftly to protect the discovery, which turned up a large number of coins. Going from house to house in quest of the treasure, the authorities first attempted to purchase it from those who had it prior to the hunt. Yes, they had sent an archaeologist to find out where the coins came from, and more pieces were taken out of the basement. In addition to the gold coins, there were other unusual items like pendants and brooches. The gold crown was the find's crown treasure. Though it helped historians establish that the treasure dates back to the 1340s, the treasure actually belonged to Charles IV, the Emperor of the House of Luxembourg, who had pawned certain items to a Jewish banker in Schroeder. Sadly, the banker would disappear when a plague struck. After being hidden for hundreds of years, the treasure was eventually discovered once more, but nobody has been able to get their hands on it since. Even though it sounds like an impossible and surreal story, it is factual. Number 3. Bronze-aged sword. Is that rusty sword visible? Just glancing at it would definitely make a lot of people think it's worthless. But when a farmer in Northern Ireland came across it in 1965 beside a riverbank, he concluded that its true age was between 608 and 100 BC. At first sight, the man could not see any significance in the sword while he was going fishing. He then threw it into his toolbox, which was located in an old shed on his property, and stayed there for more than 50 years. Subsequently, in 2017, he and his sibling, Maurice, escalated their involvement in the War Bricks and Bridges project. After that, they started looking into the disputed site of the 1594 Battle of the Biscuits near the Arny River and wondered where the unusual object would have disappeared to. Then they recalled the rusty old sword he had previously discovered. After taking the artifact out of the shed, they had specialists evaluate it. They realized then that the sword belonged to a precious 2,600-year-old artifact. An archaeologist said that such a Bronze Age artifact would typically appear once every 25 years or so. The farmer thought the discovery would be of great interest to the residents of Arny, given his strong interest in the history of the area. It would also be challenging to create objects of this kind that would endure centuries in order to uncover a noteworthy treasure. Said to have belonged to a warrior, the precious sword was purposefully broken before being thrown into the river. After that, it was brought to a nearby museum so that everyone might see it. Number 2. Rare 1930s penny coin. Under a carpet in a house she was cleaning out, a cleaning company employee found a rare Australian coin from the 1930s. She found the rusty old penny along with several newspapers with pages dating back to the 19th century, while she and her colleagues were attempting to breathe new life into the hoarders. She said in a TikTok video that she had done research on the coin and found that it might have been worth roughly $40,000. A similar 19th century cent was once sold at auction for more than $59,000 in 2022, while another extremely rare 1930 penny would go for $115 million in 2019, according to a Yahoo News report. Viewers would leave numerous comments on Charlotte's clip, many of them accusing her of keeping the coin for herself. She gave them her word that she had given it back to the owner. Since it was their property, she claimed that it was not a case of finders keepers. Additionally, only roughly 1,500 pieces of the currency were put into circulation in 1930, making it a rare example of a rare coin in Australia. When the Great Depression first started, the heads of Queen Elizabeth II and King George VI are depicted in it. All of the pre-decimal Australian coins are still in circulation according to the ABC. The copper pennies were not intended for circulation and had the lowest mintage. Actually, 1,500 units were made available to support the 1931 supply. Collectors discovered that the 1930 penny was missing when the coins were phased out in the 1960s. Number 1. Treasure safe. In their backyard, Matthew and Maria Cana Emanuel of Staten Island would discover a hidden treasure box. The pair disclosed that they had found a corroded and rotting safe while planting a few trees. When they opened the box, they realized they had mistakenly opened an electricity box. Then they made a very startling discovery: $52,000 worth of goods, including jewels, diamonds, gold, and jade, as well as wads of $100 notes, were found within the box. In order to give them a better view of the box, a deer had eaten away at the foliage in the couple's yard, which contained trees that had suffered damage from nature. This discovery is similar to that of hidden treasure, so they made the decision to unearth it. Fortunately for the owner, a note inside the safe had a Brooklyn address inscribed on it. The address was then linked to one of neighbors. They knew that they had to be the ones responsible. They proceeded to their residence, knocked on their door, and inquired as to whether they had ever been robbed. To their chagrin, it was established that the safe had been taken during the 2011 break-in at neighbor's house, despite their claims that they had been robbed several years previously, instead than retaining the wealth for themselves. The pair just gave it back to the owner along with the information about the culprit who had perpetrated the theft. The proprietors of the safe said it was Robert Costanzo, aka the Ninja Burglar, who had served time in prison for around 160 robberies. Since the stolen items were not discovered or apprehended with the burglar at the time, the authorities were unable to verify that he was the true offender. Let me know all about it in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.